Hello. So my parents were immigrants. They came from Vietnam after the war for different reasons. Both ended up as refugees. And I was born and raised in the suburbs of Minnesota, which is great and very white. You know. You know? I'm winking at every single one of you. Every one of you. Up there, you too. And when I was born, we were very much lower class. We were very poor. And I didn't know it at the time, but I learned later when I was an adolescent, and I loved to look at old photos, childhood photos, and my mom told me at one point that it actually makes her really sad to look at old photos because all she can think about is how much they were struggling back then, financially and emotionally, that kind of stuff. And when I was about 10 years old, my parents were kind of making it. They were doing a lot better. They moved up to kind of middle class, and we moved from one white suburb of the Twin Cities to another slightly higher class white suburb of the Twin Cities. So, the dream. The dream. And one thing that changed when we moved houses was not only was it bigger, but it was the first time we ever lived with a dishwasher. We never had a dishwasher before. And my mom, she grew up not using a dishwasher. She didn't use one for, like 30, 40 years. And so when we moved there, she didn't really like using it. That just wasn't culturally, didn't make sense to her. Like, she would just do it herself. But it was still this, like, if you don't use a dishwasher, you kind of realize it's kind of like cabinet, right? Like it's in the kitchen, it opens like a cabinet. I guess that's not right. Anyway, we just decided, my mom would just like store stuff in there, like Tupperware and like ramen, all this kind of stuff. Just like another cupboard. And I didn't think anything of it. Because I had also never lived with a dishwasher. Because like it wasn't a normal thing to me. I'd seen people use it. I knew it was it's in the name, dishwasher. Figured it out. Eventually. But we didn't use it, and I didn't think anything of it. And then about sophomore year of high school, my close friends and I started to throw surprise birthday parties for each other. It was this one year we just all did surprise birthday parties. And my friends came over one time to make me breakfast. They surprised me, it was really sweet. They made like a breakfast casserole that we learned how to make in home ed, and like cheesy potatoes that we learned how to make in home ed. They set the table like we learned in home ed. It was great, very classy. And they were really gracious and they were great, and I really enjoyed the party, and I didn't realize until the end that they might figure something out at the end. When after the meal they wanted to help out, and they went to the dishwasher to load it up, because that's what they do with their families. They all had like 4 or 5 kids. It made sense that they always use the dishwasher. And they opened it, and they were like, what the hell is this? It's a bunch of like dry goods in there. Like in the slots for the place, like not haphazard. It was very meticulously arranged and like pulled out in a drawer, so it was like way weirdly accessible as well. And I had not thought until the moment about how weird that might have been. And they were like, what is this? And I was like, oh, like we don't use the dishwasher. I was like, why don't you use the dishwasher? I was like, I don't know, my mom likes to do dishes. Like, your mom likes to do dishes? And it just did not click. And they didn't make fun of me, but they talked about it a lot. And it wasn't like with mean or derogatory terms. It's just like, that is so weird. That's so weird. Why did she do that? And I had no idea why. I couldn't explain it. I was like, my mom, is this my mom? I don't know. She's weird, I guess. I don't know. I guess that's what she does. I don't know. It made sense to me up until that moment. And then because they brought it up, and then they brought it up again a week later, because every time it occurred to them, they're like, oh yeah, Katie's family doesn't use the dishwasher to wash dishes. And I was like, yeah. And every single time it would come up, I wouldn't get defensive because they were never making fun of me, but I would start to feel a little defensive every single time. And I started saying like stuff like, oh, it's my mom, she's crazy, she's weird. And there's a lot of stuff like that I just didn't know whether or not anybody did that. It seemed like nobody else did, so I felt kind of weird. So like it got to the point where I would just kind of blame it on my mom, every time it came up, and be like, oh wow, she, even though like the whole family technically did it. It's not like we were taking her stuff out and washing dishes and then like removing them and putting back in. Like it was a whole family thing, but I was really throwing my mom under the bus. And there were actually, when I look back on it, there's a lot of things like that when I was younger that I really just kind of absorbed. Nowadays I know names for it, internalized racism. For example, when I was 18, I was still describing myself as whitewashed because I was really insecure about not speaking Vietnamese and never having gone to Vietnam. And enough people had called me out about it and shamed me for it that I started like kind of internalizing using these own phrases around myself. And I got kind of weird about it. So senior year of high school, on the first day of senior year, I hosted my friend's brunch. And I remember being so nervous about it the entire time, because I was gonna have like 10 girls over, and I knew they were all gonna be helping cook, and they were all gonna wanna clean, and I didn't know like if I should like wait till my mom left and then like take everything out of the dishwasher and like prep it. Where would I even put it? Like that's, it's a cabinet, that's where they go. Like where do they go? Like in the sink? I don't know, there's no place to put them. And I remember being so nervous, and it was supposed to be a really fun time. And the whole time I was like, oh, and people started trying to help. And I was like, no, I'll get it. And I'm trying to wash like dishes for like 10 girls. They're like, what are you doing? We have to go to school. And I was just like really nervous that they'd find it out. And somebody did bring it up, because my friends all knew each other. And it did make me really nervous. It said nobody was mean, but it just was always this point of conversation that made me really anxious and nervous. And I've always thought that was kind of weird. And then a couple years ago, I saw a clip of a TV show on social media, a TV show called Fresh Off the Boat. And I'd never seen it before, and I heard it was good, and people talk a lot about representation. There's a lot more these days than there was when I was a kid. There's always, like the nerdy sidekick, or like the kung fu warrior, or both. Like me. And then I saw this clip, and it was about a kid going to their friend's house, their white friend's house, the Chinese kid going to the white friend's house. And then at one point, the mom tells the white kid to load the dishwasher, and the kid goes, what? And he walks up to it, and he sees for the first time that this thing that to him had always been a cabinet, a drying rack, was a dishwasher. And he goes home, and he rips this tape off the dial on his family's dishwasher. She's like, Mom, why didn't you tell us it's a dishwasher? She's like, I don't want us to use it. And it was a joke, and it was supposed to be funny, but in that moment, seeing that in mainstream media was huge. And I looked at the comments, and it wasn't just Vietnamese American immigrants commenting. It was people of all different countries, of all different races, saying, my family does it, we're Latino, my family does it, we're African, my family does it, we're Asian, my family does it. And it was just like this amazing moment to me, for me to see all these people, and I realized it wasn't like a weird my mom thing, it was an immigrant thing. And it was a cultural thing. And it just made me feel so seen and validated. And like there were other people out here who were going through that kind of thing. It was just so amazing to see something like that. And I shared it with my friends, who I'm still friends with, who were there, and they were like, that was a great clip. And they're like, I actually understand a lot better. And we laughed really hard. Still. But it was so great for me to see that. I laughed, and I felt warm inside, and it just made me really realize and just really reinforce the idea that we need representation in media, because it makes us feel seen and validated and shares our stories. We need to see people with different shaped bodies, people from different backgrounds, people of different colors with different religions, and people who store ramen in their dishwashers. Okay, so thank you very much.